wanted to make a short video about She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, aka the best show ever, and how one particular character in season 5 of that show uses gendered language in a particularly interesting way. So in season 5 of She-Ra, the main team are fighting the Horde, which in this final season is this intergalactic clone army where all the soldiers look exactly alike and they're kind of a hive mind, and they're led by the original person that all the other clones are based on, called Horde Prime, like being that he's the original one of the Horde and the rest of his Horde is all his followers. So they're pretty standard looking villains for this kind of fantasy sci-fi setting. And what's interesting is that partway through season 5, they managed to disconnect one of the Horde clones from the hive mind, and they dubbed this person Wrong Hordak. But what's funny about that is this person goes through an existential crisis, no longer being connected to all his brothers, and he actually decides to join the rebel side and fight back against the Horde once he realizes that Horde Prime was lying to basically everybody. Being that the Horde is all dudes, they all refer to each other as brothers. So Horde Prime is the oldest brother and everyone else is his little brother. So generally you'll see this individual soldiers referring to each other as brother and to Horde Prime as the eldest brother. In the beginning of season 5, before we're introduced to the deprogrammed clone, the Wrong Hordak character, another character called Catra joins Horde Prime's army and becomes sort of like an honorary member, even though she obviously looks quite different from all the other soldiers. And when she's working with Horde Prime, she's dubbed Little Sister. And when I first started watching season 5, this made a lot of sense to me. She's one of the family, she's one of the siblings, but obviously because she's a girl, you can't really call her brother. And she's also the newest cadet, so that's why she gets termed Little Sister. Horde Prime is the first one to call her Little Sister, but the other soldiers also start using the same language. However, as I watched more of season 5 and we got to interact more with the Wrong Hordak character, I noticed that he was using language in a slightly different way from what we had seen so far with the Horde army. He joins the rebel team with many of our established characters, including Catra. So there's Bo, there's Glimmer, there's Adora, there's Entrapta, and there's Catra. And because he kind of sees them as his like new team or his new army, he starts to call them brothers. And at first, I thought this was maybe like one of those weird gender things where if there's even one male person in the group, you use the masculine language. So as long as Bo is there, he's going to refer to his new friends as brothers, even though most of them are sisters, not brothers. But then, like, the more this character talked, it became clear that he's using brothers indiscriminately, even when he's referring only to female characters. For instance, at one point, Catra makes a comment and he says something like, "Our brother is correct," clearly referring to Catra, even though she's clearly female, not male. And at first, this kind of really confused me because it seemed unlikely that this character wouldn't be able to distinguish gender. He knows a lot of other things about the universe, even though he is fairly naive compared to a lot of other characters. He knows things about how to cook, he knows details about Horde Prime's past campaigns, and so on. And another one of the clones that the characters talk to in the first episode of season 5 also uses female pronouns to refer to Glimmer, like they mention Glimmer and he says, oh, she's an honored guest of Horde Prime. So obviously he recognizes that Glimmer is female, which makes me think that the clones in the Horde army do have some conception of gender. It's just a weird thing about Wrong Hordak that he uses the term brothers for everyone. So obviously, because I like this show way too much, I had to come up with a complicated fan theory to explain why Wrong Hordak uses gender in this particular way that we don't really see other people using in this show. And the theory I came up with was, because the Horde is such a homogenous society, because they're all clones and anyone who deviates even slightly, as Hordak does, will get booted immediately. In fact, every time we were hearing people call Catra little sister in the first part of season 5, that was actually a diss. That was actually looking down on her, reminding her that she is different, she is inferior, and she doesn't really belong with everyone else. Wrong Hordak, on the other hand, is not looking down on his new friends. He does see them as equals, he does see them as comrades, so he naturally doesn't want to use language that would imply that some of them are lesser members of the group than others. So he kind of has a dilemma. Like, he knows that they're not all clones of each other. They're very different physically and in their personalities, and that it would be more grammatically correct to refer to some of them as sisters and some of them as brothers. But he also feels kind of weird about saying sister versus brother, because it would be like putting some of his friends on a lower level than others. So Wrong Hordak either subconsciously or consciously just decides, whatever. Them being my comrades is more important than what they look like or what pronouns they use. Therefore, brother is now gender neutral, and all my new friends are my brothers. They're not my little brothers, they're not my big brothers. They are on the same level as me, and I'm going to use that language that reflects how we're all best buddies and we're all working together. This detail actually made me feel so much more sorry for Catra and all that she goes through in season 5, because now I just kind of imagine that when she's on Horde Prime's ship trying to survive and work with them for as long as she can so they don't kill her, I just see like all the soldiers like snickering behind her back, being like, yeah, like she's inferior, she looks like a cat, she doesn't have the ideal clone soldier body type like the rest of us, she's just that little sister we look down on. So maybe I'm reading a little bit too much into this, but maybe this is also just a cool world building detail, playing with gender a little bit and establishing the culture of the world through what the characters do without actually taking a long time to explain it, and having some character moments that really hit you later on and you don't even realize what's going on and how painful this is for the characters in the moment, and you kind of have to go back and be like, oh, ouch. So anyway, long story short, this is why She-Ra is a brilliant show, and you should definitely watch it. Hope you enjoyed my analysis in my video. Thanks for watching. Because the Horde is such a homogenous, I cannot pronounce words today.